Pop out just like that. Set these out. There we go. Nice and tight.
Hey Kinfolk, so just taking a break after work to explain to you what I'm doing and break up some of the work that I'm showing you guys. So the reason why I made the frame like I did is, the reason why I made everything flat is because I wanted to maximize the amount of vertical space that I have, because ultimately this is going into the back of a minivan and it's gotta fit. I'm gonna try and use as much vertical space as possible because I'd like to put a canopy over this and I can sleep in it. And that's the whole idea, is I can use this as a means to have a portable cabin. I can, you know, cart this thing around. I can have stuff I can sell in it, and I can go camp to camp, and everything's right there. And all I got to do is just pull it out of the van. That's the plan anyway. So yeah, so that's why I had the 2x4s laid flat instead of vertical. And I cut the ends here in a specific way to kind of do this special joint, to where if the whole thing twists, and it will twist because it's not going to be flat ground wherever I go, and it's going to twist, and that particular joint will kind of keep that from happening, keep it from rattling loose and those screws coming out, and that's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't want to happen. So let me show you. Okay, so the reason why I had cut all that out is so if this were to turn in, it would push up against this end grain right here, and all that force would be transferred down and it wouldn't go very far, and that's what I want. Ultimately, I don't want this whole thing to rack. That's the word. And yeah, and likewise, it'll push up against this grain right here, and all that force will be pushed that way against the end grain, and it won't go anywhere. And that's why I chose that. And again, this is flat to maximize vertical space, and I need to use as much of that as possible. Every inch is going to count.
get the center of this here. Yes. Yeah, that's really good.
So here we are at the front of the whole wagon, and the reason why I have these spacers is so I can keep this part, the front steering column, to actually turn. Otherwise it won't go anywhere. So let me show you guys here. See, it has to have that space so it'll spin, otherwise it won't go anywhere. It'll just be stuck in that position forever and ever and ever and ever. I'm going to be replacing these with hopefully leaf spring, and I can have a bit of suspension. And so the reason why I put these in here, these long pieces all the way down, is that it helps stop when it turns. It stops right there, right? And it keeps that wheel from jamming in on the frame and getting stuck. And so if I turn it hard, it's not going to go anywhere. Also, it helps support that front brace, that front axle, and it has more points of contact with the rest of the frame, and it's a nice smoother turn. The reason why I put these little T-nuts there is so it's nice and flush, it's not sticking up, and I'm going to be able to put a piece of plywood on top of this to help also reinforce the whole thing. So if it's racking, that piece of plywood is going to keep it stable and square. Underneath here, let me see here. So that screw is right underneath that axle, and again it has to be completely flush. So I had to countersink it with a washer inside and screw it all in. And this cross brace was added a bit later here because ultimately I needed something for that that swivel arm to slide up against. Otherwise it would slide, it would hit this every single time. And it also helps support that front axle. I guess you can call these sway bars here. I ultimately had to shave off a little bit there, as you can see, because otherwise that wheel would have rubbed, and it did. It took about an hour or so to just shave them down and sand them up. But yeah, so far it's a nice smooth ride. The other thing about all this whole wagon idea that I wanted to do is that I wanted to be able to transport people that just can't really get around all that well. You know, people who aren't as abled. And it'd be nice for them to be able to be carted around, you know, a big site like Bico, where, you know, it's a mile long. You know, the main road is a mile long, and certain locations are even further than that, and they're uphill. And that's kind of part of why I did all of this. I also didn't want to have to do a rickshaw plan where I had to keep holding it up on one end. I wanted the front wheels to do that as for me, which is why I needed to steer and all that stuff. Most of the weight I wanted on the wheels and not on me. So that's basically the tour of the wagon so far. I still have a lot more to go. I have to get the flatbed going, and I have to start building a canopy off of that. And but the next episode I'm going to show you how I made the wheels and how they run and how smooth they go, and all of the trials and tribulations that involved with the wheels. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, consider buying me a drink on my Ko-Fi or becoming a supporter on Patreon. All this stuff costs money and takes a lot of effort. So I really appreciate any and all help that you can send my way. And yeah, I have a lot more to go, and I appreciate you guys for hanging on. And that's all I got for you today, nerds. So I'm going to send you home with it. Be humble, be helpful, and be honorable. Thanks for watching.